Welcome once again to the Guy Who Knows a Guy podcast. I'm your host, Michael Whitehouse, the guy who knows a guy himself. And today our guest is Orly, Amor, very good friend of mine. And I'm very excited to have her on this show, finally. Orly is a successful entrepreneur who has started 5 companies. As a corporate trainer, best-selling author, and international public speaker, she has helped over 200,000 people around the world maximize their bottom line by tripling and quadrupling their sales. Her extensive experience as a certified behavior analyst has made her indispensable as a coach to many influential corporate leaders around the world and North America. In addition to being a great public speaker herself and a great networker for the past 10 years, she has helped public speakers create their business model for public speaking. Her gift is to show them how to monetize their craft by taking it seriously and having what she calls business in a box for public speakers, thereby teaching them how to fish. Orly recently published a book called Public Speakers, You're Not All That, 12 Reasons Why Event Planners Won't Hire You. The book became an instant bestseller, and the sequel to the book is launching soon called Public Speakers, You're Still Not All That, How to Navigate the Paid Virtual Speaking Circuit. Orly speaks 3 languages fluently and has earned her MBA and law degree. Despite the impressive education success as a businesswoman, Orly remains remarkably humble, authentic, and very engaging as a speaker. Please help me welcome Orly Amor.
Yay! And the crowd goes wild. No, hi, Michael. Thank you for having me.
Yes, glad to have you. It's always fun to talk. As we were talking before, every time I talk to you, I learn more things you do because you have all these different, because I first met you as a speaking coach because you invited me down to your boot camp in Dallas, which was my first in-person event post-pandemic. That was very exciting. But then, I learned about your coaching and I learned about your health and wellness network of commerce, and I learned about these other things. So there's always something new. There's always more to learn about Orly Amor.
What can I tell you? I'm a big puzzle, but I love what I do. And that's why the more I have fun, the better I do. I add something to my plate. I can't get bored. That's my problem, I think.
Absolutely. So you have a great story that you shared with me that I think would be a good thing to kick off with about how you got started teaching speakers to get paid, where you were at an event where you were being paid and no one else was, and you discovered that. Would you mind sharing that story?
No, I don't mind at all. So, but you know what? I'll even tell you the beforehand of that story so that it kind of ties in, and it won't take more than a couple of minutes. So, what happened was before I left in May 2010, I left for Europe for a speaking tour. And before that, I had a little barbecue party at my pool at my house. And I had a bunch of my friends who are speakers at my party. And I heard a couple of them speak about not making money. And I said, hey, guys, minimum wage in public speaking is $150,000 a year. And they said, what, are you crazy, Orly? Different one of them, well, I make 50, some of us make 60, some of us make $80,000 a year. 100, that's pushing it. 150, you're out of your mind. And Michael, you would appreciate this. In my head, I said, thank God I'm not telling them that I triple that. and on top of the fact that I said I didn't tell them that, because in my head also was a cartoon playing that said that they're going to push me in the pool and drown me, take over the house. It was one of those bubbles that came out of my head in a cartoon mode. Anyway, fast forward, I go to Europe, I come back. And I usually tell people who tell me things that I'm crazy, I say, okay, you do you, I'll do me. They hated when I say that, but I did. And so I go to Europe, I come back and I'm hired to speak in Arlington, Texas. And so I go to the event and I'm just minding my own business in the break room for speakers when 3 guys come over to me and one of them says, aren't you Orly Amor? I said, yeah, do I know you? Sorry, I don't remember. And I pretty much remember people I meet. So it was kind of weird. And so one of them says, no, we've never met before, but we've seen you on the circuit. I said, oh, okay. And mind you, I'm a corporate speaker. So it was like, what circuit? It's okay. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. I did go to a few conferences. So we just started networking. And at one point, one of them said to me, listen, I don't mean to pry, but how did you get this gig? I'm just curious. I said, well, I don't know. I called, I told them what I speak about. They paid me and I'm here. They all looked at me like if I had 3 heads. You got paid? I said, you guys didn't? They're like, no, we got our expenses paid, but we didn't get paid. I said, oh no, I got paid and I got my expenses paid. At this point, I'm just pushing it. Oh boy. Anyway, and so they said, well, we want to know how you did that. And jokingly, because I was not coaching at the time, jokingly, I said, well, if I tell you, I'm going to have to charge you. But I was just kidding. And before I could say just kidding, they said, okay, name your price. I said, what? Okay, let me get back to you. So that's when I learned that speakers did not get paid. Actually, that was my aha moment. I never knew speakers did not get paid. All my time, 16 years before that, I was speaking and I didn't know speakers did not get paid. So it was weird for me to hear that. And it was, aha, what? Really? You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, and that can be the power of ignorance. If you don't know speakers don't get paid, it wouldn't occur to you to speak for free, because of course speakers get paid. So
exactly.
Of course. Yeah, and I think there's a lot of people, I imagine some of the challenges, they could get paid if they asked, but if they're in the negotiation and they don't realize it's a negotiation, and they say, yes, you're going to cover my expenses, right? And the organizer's like, yes, of course we will. And they're waiting to hear the honorarium number, and the speaker never asks for it. And they're like, all right, I'll send over the contract just like we discussed it here. Because they've got the reverse. They don't know speakers do get paid. So it wouldn't occur to them to ask, or they don't want to offend or whatever. Whereas if you could be ignorant of the fact that people don't get paid, then you'd be like, so of course you're going to pay me, right? And maybe they weren't planning to, but they might say, I guess so. How much are you looking for? And you give a number, they say, okay, yeah, we got that, sure.
The ignorance is a good thing, but in our day and age, and because so many people wake up in the morning and say, I want to be a paid speaker, I want to speak, I want to get out there and give my message, and many of them either are not such good speakers, but it's not about being a good or a bad speaker, it's about knowing how to package yourself to an event planner, because they don't have time for you, right? I mean, many gurus out there are talking about, oh, you need a book, you need a signature talk, you need a podcast, you need a website, and none of this is real. None of this is true. So you don't really need any of it to be able to be paid as a speaker, but you do know how to talk into event planners and make their job a little easier. Can I give you a statistic?
Yes.
So, well, I'll give you two statistics, or even three, but let me give you the first one, which is more important than anything. You have to know that event planners are number 6 on the most stressful jobs in America. They did a survey of what on 100 professions, which ones are the most stressful. Number 1 was military jet fighter plane pilot. Number 2 was air traffic controller. Number 6 was event planner. And in 2017, number 4 was event planner. You can imagine that their number, they're on the top 10 of being the most stressful. If you don't know what you're doing, they're just swiping over you. They're not even looking into you. They don't even know your name before they know that you don't know what you're doing. So it's kind of, the problem today after pandemic, there are more opportunities. So 64,000 events per day in America alone, Canada and the United States pay speakers. Yet most speakers are broke or don't know how to do this business, and therefore they don't know how to ask, it's not about negotiation, it's what you're asking for. There's what is called my value versus industry value. So people don't know that difference, and so they just blow numbers out there, and honorarium of $200 doesn't mean you got paid as a speaker, just so you know.
Yeah, means you got lunch. So how do you find these? You said 64,000?
Yeah, so 64,000 a day. It's like,
so how do you find those? Where are they?
Well, you can find, Google is your best friend, but it's how to do this on Google as well. People are looking for all the wrong places in the wrong ways. They can definitely find them. It's just not about how to find them. You never find the person that really hires. So you need to contact everybody. It's just, it's a numbers game, but also there's no real numbers game. You got to know how to talk. You got to know what to send to them as an email. You got to know how to present yourself so you don't look salesy or desperate. Desperation has a very, very bad smell. Right? They just know from the way you approach them and how it is that you sound makes them know that you don't know what you're doing, you're new, you don't know. How much you charge, same thing. You don't know what industry value is. How will you know how to talk up to event planners about how much you charge? Because you could be charging less than industry value or more, and you don't know. They know that. They talk to each other, so they know that. For my book, Public Speakers, You're Not All That, I interviewed over 3,400 event planners that pay speakers for this book. And so it took me 4.5 years out of my own time and my own dime. So knowing this is a big, at least knowing the statistics of it should tell your audience that yes, there is room for everyone. It's $150 billion. No, sorry, it's $100 billion a year industry. But in 2022, it grew by 13.2 billion dollars just in 2022, and it's going to grow again. Public speaking is not going anywhere.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and I think for all the people who are talking about like, well, you do conferences online. We've seen over the last 2 years what conferences online are, and there's some good ones. I like to think I run some of them, but they're not the same as a live event, especially if you're talking about like a corporate retreat, bringing your team together. If you got 1,000 employees, you can't bring them together on Zoom. They've got to hang out in the hall. They got to go to the dinner together. They got to have the drinks after the event together. That's where the amazing things happen. And the speakers
that is the perception. That is the perception, and perception is reality for many people. But it's not true. It's just that yes, there is 1,000 people event. I just spoke in Rome on the 3rd of November, and it was a hybrid event. They brought me through Zoom because I had another event that day that was starting in Miami, so I couldn't be at 2 places at the same time. But they agreed to change my time slot to fit to be in Rome at the same time in being in Miami. I spoke in Rome, and there were 1,000 people, not only online, but also in the room. They had more than 2,500 people. So I did not see the audience. So I cannot tell you how many people were in the room, but I could see how many people were on Zoom. So that there were quite a few people. And so I believe that, the online, the virtual speaking is not going to go away anytime soon. People are still afraid to go out and meet. People are still afraid of reaching out to the outside world. And so why not go to do the virtual events? You're teaching people how to rock the stage online. So therefore, you're encouraging that there is a way to speak online. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. Keep your mind open. I'm talking to your audience. Keep your mind open. Well, and that's many opportunities.
Yeah, there's so many opportunities, whether they're in person, virtual, hybrid, whatever. People still need to get together, and so there's a lot of opportunities. I know that I believe there was a time when it was kind of trending away from in-person events. So it's going virtual, but then there's less speakers because the virtual events didn't have the space for them. And now they're discovering, oh no, we still need that. Yes, we saved money, but we lost the value. So, business companies could always have stopped doing their annual conferences, but then they would have lost the value. And sure enough, putting it on Zoom didn't replace their virtual conference.
No.
So there's so many different ways that we can speak, and so many ways we can interact.
Sure.
And one thing you talked about the Rock the Camera program that I'm currently playing. By the time this comes out, I don't know if I'll be running or if I'll change the name or what. But what I found is I think what people are getting really excited about is the confidence aspect of it. It's not so much that I'm going to teach them to be amazing on camera, which it's about repetition and exercise. It's about having that confidence that you can get on camera and be like, this is me. I'm taking this space. I'm doing this thing. And once you can do that, then you can use that to sell. You can use that to deal with vendors. You can use that everywhere. Because you were talking about how you approach the event planners. And if you approach them with the confidence of, I know what I'm doing. I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to get paid because this is just who I am. That confidence can take you along, because that's what you were doing before you knew you couldn't. You maybe weren't supposed to get paid. You're just like, of course, I'm Orly Amor. I get paid. That's what happens. And they responded to the confidence because they're like, oh, she seems to know something I don't. I guess we'll write her a check.
Well, it has to do a lot with mindset too. Let's do the analogy of having a store. You and I are going to open a store. We still need certain things, even though if we don't know how to run, let's say maybe you do, but I wouldn't know how to run a a tool store, right? I mean, or in hardware store, right? I
wouldn't
don't know how to
either.
run one of those. I mean, well, let's just say we both don't know that, but we do know that we need a key to the front door, an alarm system. We know how to decorate for Christmas and New Year. And you know what I mean? We know how to keep it up. We know how to keep it clean and organized. We know how to use the cash register, go to the bank, all that stuff. But do we know what kind of hammer to order for inventory? Do we know how to? So the thing is, the analogy of the store is that when you have everything else but the product, you are the product in the business of public speaking. But you need to have a good infrastructure, because if not, then you won't have anybody buying from you. So if you're not structured as a store would be, right? You'll need the four walls, you'll need the camera system and the alarm system and all that other stuff that you need. I don't have to tell you what we're selling in the store. In my store, I'm the product. So if I don't know how to sell myself, then nobody will come in and nobody will buy. And if you don't know how much to charge and how to charge and when to scale, because this is a scalable business, then again, you're not going to get paid your worth. You can have the confidence, which is a very good point. You also have to have consistency, patience. You have to have these things, or else you're not going to get paid and you're going to get discouraged. And if you get discouraged, then you're going to work out of desperation, and that won't work for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And of course, you're discouraged. You don't have the confidence anymore. That's when that confidence starts to crack. And it's interesting because talking about the kind of the idea of the confidence as the facade, like that's your sign out front. And how many people out there who have a strong facade and then behind it is nothing. I saw a TikTok recently from Suzanne Evans, and she was talking about how she was going to be speaking at a big names event, and she is a large personality. She has a big presence.
I know her well.
Yep. And she was saying that the host, this is a coach, so presumably someone who teaches confidence and self-reflection and being your best self and all the things coaches teach. And the coach said to her, "Yeah, so you're pretty, you've got a really big presence, and could you just I don't know, it'd be great if you could." And apparently the host never even made an ask. It just kind of like, "Could you not?" And Suzanne basically said, "No." I'm big and I'm going to be big on your stage. And it was interesting to think about that a coach who's probably selling confidence and selling all this, then behind the scenes, behind their facade of confidence, is asking the speakers on the stage, be like, could you not make me look small? Could you duck down a little bit so I look taller? And I was thinking, like, wow, it's amazing how people out there are empty shells of confidence. And a lot of us, our confidence is diminished because we compare ourselves to others' highlight
Right.
reels.
And that's the biggest mistake. That's the biggest mistake, comparing yourself, copying from others, thinking that what they're doing is a good thing. Be yourself, stay in your lane, be a trailblazer if you have to, but copying and doing what other people are doing is making you look like what they look like. And it doesn't mean that it's working for them. And so that's very important to understand in this business, because event planners are watching. I'll give your audience another thing. Do not contact event planners through LinkedIn. You will be blacklisted. And what you need to do is get their information and go introduce yourself in a separate email, literally outside of LinkedIn. Because if not, they don't look for they might look at your profile on LinkedIn, but they're not there to be communicated to. And so people who are communicating with event planners on LinkedIn are getting blacklisted. I would love to hear of one or two stories even of somebody that got hired through LinkedIn by contacting an event planner. Because I remember when all this started, as far as blacklisting speakers, because they don't know what they're doing. They're just going at it in every which way they can, and they look very desperate. Also, to your point, mindset is very important. And knowing this business, where to my point of the store analogy and your point of having a facade, many people that are speakers, they have a really good facade, not only in their personality, because they can show up as being confident and I'm doing it and I'm here and there and everywhere. They're very good marketers, but they don't have content. They copied all their content, or they took a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and they called themselves speakers. And they went on a couple of stages and they call themselves speakers. And when you've done 2,000-3,000 talks like I have in your lifetime, in 25 years of doing this full time, we've seen them all come and go. I'm still standing. Why is that? Because I've trailed my own way into this business, right? And so having a good marketing strategy is not really good to market yourself that way sometimes. Some of them are really good marketers, but they just sell a program. They're not selling themselves as speakers. It's very, it's a very fine line, and people need to see right through that. So my advice is stay in your lane, do your thing, stop looking around you on what other people are doing. They're not better than you. They're not more advanced than you. They're just been there maybe a little longer. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting what you say about how they copy all their material, and because especially with speaking, if you're a coach, you can't copy another coach because you have to be interactive. Your clients are going to do this, and you got to respond to that. Whereas with speaking, if theoretically, I mean, not today because people could then Google Google some words out of your speech and find the person you're copying from, but conceivably you could watch a couple of speeches, take this part from this one, this part from this one, this part from this one, memorize it well, copy the mannerisms, and actually copy a performance on the stage and not have anything behind it. But then I imagine that the event planners are much less interested in hiring a copy than an original.
Well, yes, they're not interested in hiring a copy, but they won't know it unless you know how to promote yourself to an event planner, which they'll take the person that actually knows how to serve the event planner, not the audience. Many people confuse things in wanting to serve the audience, where the audience will be who they are when they are. If the student is ready, the teacher will come. So some will like you, some won't like you. Get over it. You're supposed to serve the event planner first. So make sure that they are the ones who are, because they're the ones hiring you. And if they're paying for you, make sure that's who you're serving. The audience will get what they get from you, the message. And if you're not good, they're not going to hire you back. So don't worry about it. There's 64,000 other ones, right, at the end of the day. But to your point earlier, also, there's a lot of people out there that teach people how to be a millionaire, but they never made $1 million in their whole life put together. So the problem with that is that there's a lot of speakers that are promising the delivery of nothing. They don't follow up. They don't follow through. Actually, here's another statistic for you. 48% of speakers do not follow up with event planners. And then they wonder why they're not getting paid, why they're not out, getting the gigs. You have to also remember some events happen once a year, some twice a year, some 3 times a year, some 4 times a year. But there are events that also happen once every 2 years, once every 3 years, once every 4 years. And so when that happens, when you're contacting event planners, I don't know how many times I've heard it from people on LinkedIn, from people who have coached, people who have come to talk to me on a one-to-one, have always complained, event planners never respond to me. Well, one, let's start remembering that they are the busiest people on freaking planet Earth, right? I mean, they're really, really busy. Second, maybe they're not looking for speakers at that moment. Remember what I just said, once every 2 years. So when they're looking for speakers, you'll get an email. Right now, they're not looking. So that's why it's a numbers game. It's not because they're not hiring you. It's because you don't know when the events are. And so you need to continuously. I've had people who look on Google and say, yeah, but the event already passed. What am I going to do with that? Apply for next year. Why are you thinking in the means of right now? Because that's where the desperation looks like, that's what desperation looks like. And so you need to stop that. Do what you need to do, have your coaching, do webinars, do other things, networking is huge. And and then speak to the guy who knows a guy. You never know.
And so what can a speaker do to serve the event planner?
Well, I usually, when I do my webinars, I ask a question, and the 2 questions. One, do you think you have a good message, right? And if you're passionate about anything, the answer is yes. You're with me? Second question is, do you think you're a good speaker? If you're passionate about anything, you're a good speaker. So the answer is yes, right? Which one of these 2 do you think event planners care about most? You could say both.
I'm going to say both. Well, being a good speaker, I would say, and whatever goes in.
Okay. What if I told you neither? The most important, I know it was a trick question. Neither. The only thing they care about is that you show up on time and you finish on time.
Yep.
Their goal is to make sure their agenda goes through well, right? And also, when an event planner hires you or chooses you, when you get 45 minutes to speak, right? Or an hour to speak, and the other person went over by 15 minutes at a 45-minute speech, they went over by 15 minutes, that threw off the agenda for the event planner. So be a good sport and do your speech in 30 minutes so that you can get up there on the totem pole with the event planner. That's what it means to serve the event planner and not yourself. People get into this business for two reasons: to feed their ego or their pocket.
Yep.
I'm more about your pocket.
Yeah.
Not your ego.
Well, yeah, and that's I can certainly see a speaker getting all, being like, oh, God, damn it, well, I need 45 minutes to tell my story, and I can't shorten my speech, thinking they need to serve the audience and do whatever magic that they're, they have the greatest speech in the world, so they've got to complete it because this audience is going to change their lives. Versus saying, you know what, if I don't get to do what I need to do with this audience, I give them a good time, they're entertained, they're happy, they clap, and the next speaker is on. But the event planner says, oh my God, you saved my life. Thank you so much. I was worried this was going to cascade down the entire schedule, and you just, you ate the whole thing. Oh, you're the best. Thank you so much.
And that's why in our speaker training boot camp, we teach people to do it in 3 minutes or 5 minutes, because if they know how to do a 3-minute speech, which is the hardest thing to do, they can get to 60 minutes and cut it off by as many as they can to get to the point where they know how to do this in their head.
Interesting. Yeah. It's funny. As we're recording this, I'm doing a 5-day challenge for confidence on camera. And today's exercise is an exercise that I got a lot of value of without realizing it, which is the 60-second talk, which brought to me by Instagram back when they had a 60-second limit. Now TikTok is 60 seconds or 180 seconds. And it was a really useful exercise to try to get a point across in 60 seconds with a countdown timer, because you get really concise. You can't repeat yourself. You can't ramble. You can't go off track. You got to be, I'm going here, and I got 59 more seconds to get there. Boom, go.
And a call to action.
Yep. Yeah, and it's
So
all, keeping that focus. And then on Friday, the exercise is creating a Toastmasters speech on the fly. Basically a five paragraph essay, introduction, 3 key points, closing. And because a lot of people, for Toastmaster speeches, are like, I need 3 months to prepare for my 5-minute Toastmaster speech. And so part of the exercise is prepare one on the fly. Because when you're in conversation, you often do speak for 3 minutes and you bring up 3 points, and you do that naturally, but then you try to plan it and you panic. But I love that concept of teaching people in that 3 to 5 minute period, because you can always stretch it out, add more examples, add more stories, do more audience engagement, something to turn 5 minutes into 50 minutes, but it's much harder to go the other way.
Yes.
Yep. So what are some of the tips you would offer for people who, think they can't tell their story in less than 60 minutes, to do that 3 to 5 minute exercise?
Well, I think the first thing people need to remember that speaking is an art form, and just like singing, just like acting, those are art forms and that need to be practiced. You got to know how to do the art, right? I mean, when you start painting, don't you start in the lines? You have to paint between the lines, right? That's what we were taught. And then the imagination, it gives you the chance to paint on your own and see the lines when they're not there. In public speaking, it's the same thing. It's an art form that you need to learn and study. Toastmasters is a great place to start, but it's not how stages really work, and it's not how really speeches are built. So it's just Toastmasters was started as a confidence builder. So, and it has its place, and it's a good thing to go to Toastmasters to start off, but don't think that because you're in Toastmasters, I'm a 3-time DTM, which is a distinguished Toastmaster, the highest level in Toastmasters. But I was in Toastmasters for a long time, and I loved it because it was my way of giving back. But at the end of the day, you got to understand that it's not real world. And so when real world kicks in, everybody that is in Toastmasters kind of feels, well, I don't think I got it. right? But it's not true. You do have it. Now you have to practice and doing it on your own and putting your own personality into it. So when you're lacking the personality, the connection with the audience, that's what I need to maybe emphasize on, is if you know how to connect to the audience, if you know how to have a call to action, and it doesn't mean you have to sell it anything, because sometimes when you get paid to speak, they don't want you to sell. So, but you still need to have a call to action. People need to go get away from your talk by saying, oh, you know what? I know what I'm going to do. I have one thing I know I can take from that talk and apply it to my life right now to have some kind of change. And they will.
Yeah, that's powerful. And as described in Toastmasters, I think it's kind of like, to use martial arts as an analogy, often in the dojo, you'll practice, you're punching, punch, 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 punch. And like that, you're not ready for fight after that.
Right.
But if you're not doing that, then you'll never be ready. Exactly. So that gets the reps, it gets the basic technique, it gets the, Toastmasters where you can lose the ums and the ahs. It's where you can get comfortable getting on stage. It's where you can learn to practice speech and get to the point and not spend 5 minutes clearing your throat before, not spend 5 minutes housekeeping before you get into your speech. And so, a lot of the basics that you really want to get out of the way on a practice stage before you get to a live stage, but then you got to take it to that next level where you really are sparring and you're out there really using those skills. Yeah,
we have a saying in speaking is stage time, stage time, stage time. As many times as you can, take the stage. You will get practice being in front of people, whether it's on Zoom, whether it's in person, whether you're giving a toast at a wedding. It doesn't matter. It's take the microphone. Take the microphone anytime you get a chance to do so. But don't fool yourself into thinking that makes you good, and when you were talking about the dojo, I was thinking about the Karate Kid. Remember, he made him wax on, wax off, wash, do the fence. He painted the whole fence, but it's all to get his muscles to follow without thinking. And in speaking, it comes out to, how do I sound like it's so natural to me when I had to work on it for a while? So I've been speaking for 25 years full time. And so when people say, oh my God, it sounds so natural to you, well, now I can definitely do it with my own personality and my own, authenticity, and not fumble on my words, because I am in the mindset of I'm on camera, or I'm on a stage, or I'm with a microphone, and I don't have to think about it. The muscle building has taken place already. And it's the same thing as the Karate Kid, or you're talking about a dojo,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think sometimes people, I remember when I was much younger, looking at speakers, me like, wow, they look so, how do they memorize their speech like that? How do they get up there? And then I heard a story actually at the boot camp. Or Ginny Trask was talking about, she was at an event and someone tapped her on the shoulder and said, hey, one of our speakers canceled. Can you speak in 45 minutes? You'll have 15 minutes. And a couple other specs. And she's like, yeah, sure.
Absolutely.
Yep. And she would have no time to prepare, no time to practice, but she just grab a mic, get on stage and speak 15 minutes.
Yeah, it happened to me many times.
Yep. And 10 years ago, I'd be like, how would you even do that? Now I'm like, I could totally do that if somebody gave me a prompt and actually I'm going to do that in my 5-day challenge. As a demonstration, I'm going to ask the audience to feed me the prompt of what that 5-part speech is and write it on the fly and then give it live.
Nice.
So, because once you've done it enough, it's just a matter of, one of those fun things we've ever done in Toastmasters is a reverse meeting. Have you ever seen one of those?
Oh, I love those. They're fun.
Where you start with the evaluations and then have to match the speeches to the evaluations.
Yes.
It was the best part. The best part, of course, is word of the day. Because the grammarian has to say how many times it was used at the end and then say what it was at the beginning.
Right, exactly.
So that was pretty brilliant. But yeah, it's a really powerful exercise. Advanced is someone can give you a bunch of specs and then you weave among them.
Yes, absolutely.
So it sounds like this would take, because you say you've been a speaker 25 years, and that's how you've gotten that comfortable. So is there something faster than 25 years that someone who's at that earlier stage saying, I don't know how you do that?
Get over yourself. That is my thing. Get over yourself. Don't think, period. Do not think. Give from your heart. Start talking from your heart. You know, let me give you another good analogy. Think about a movie that you just saw and it was amazing, right? When you speak to your friends, you're like, oh my God, you know, Julia Roberts was so amazing in that movie. I love when she did this. I love when she did that, or whatever it was. And so you're talking about it passionately because you saw the movie. It was fun, right? Well, it's the same thing about telling your own stories. It's your story. Nobody can take it away from you. Nobody can say, no, it didn't happen. You know, nobody can say that because they were not there. So you're passionate about a time or a cause or whatever, your own story and what it taught you and how you went from rags to riches. You don't have to have a boohoo story to be a speaker. You just have to have a story. I have many stories that have nothing to do with me personally, but those stories have a point to make. You understand?
So just let it flow.
Let it flow. Just relax. Just do your thing and learn. On the back end, you know, it's the duck that's floating on the water. It's pedaling on the bottom and it's just, it looks so smooth. Well, you know what? Do your talk, fumble, make mistakes, because afterwards you can go and always record yourself. That would be like the best, if you will, advice I can give. Record yourself. You're not going to like yourself on camera. You're not going to like your voice. You're not going to like many things, but look at how you spoke and what you could have done better. And it's not, you did it wrong. Don't tell yourself you did anything wrong, because you never do anything wrong when you're talking passionately. So that would be my advice. My advice is, don't think about it. Get over yourself. Everybody started somewhere. Everybody made mistakes. Everybody criticizes themselves more than anybody else would criticize them. Some people would not even notice what you notice about yourself. So get over yourself. That's really my big advice.
I love it. And the other thing, you've seen a lot of stages. Have you ever seen a time when someone got on stage and the audience like rushed the stage and chased them out of the room with torches and pitchforks?
No, but I'll tell you a good one. I got on a stage, right? They introduced me, then please welcome Orly Amor, right? I get on stage and I fell flat on my face. I tripped.
Like,
and I fell like literally on my face, right? And the audience got like, oh, right? And the MC looked at me. He's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. But on the floor, as I was there, I don't know what made me do this, but I looked at the audience to calm them down. I said, are you guys okay? and then I cracked up laughing. The MC cracked up. They cracked up. That gave me a time to get up and shake myself off. I did get hurt. I was hurting. I did twist my ankle. But the cool part is that you take whatever happens as a lesson learned and as a way to pivot things and think fast on your feet. But you get that with time. So that was like one of those moments where you think, oh my God, I just tripped. What a mess, right? Instead, I was like, are you guys okay? And everybody cracked up, and that changed the mood. And the air in the room was not tense. Everybody liked me. Makes sense? And that's
you're so human. Really, you fell down.
You fell down. Exactly. So get over yourself means all that.
Yeah.
You are human. Exactly.
Yeah, that's great. But yeah, and the point I want to make there too with the, like, have you ever seen someone chased off the stage? Is I think people have this image of like something could happen. Well, what? You're not gonna, you're not gonna, like, they're not gonna chase you off stage. They're not gonna yell. The event organizer's not gonna come running up the aisle and be like, oh my God, just stop. You're probably you're gonna finish your time. Even if you're awful, they'll politely, give you a little golf clap afterwards. Unless you're sharing some really unpopular opinion or something. But if you're going giving a corporate, professional speech, the worst you'll get is polite applause.
Exactly. And that's fine. And you won't be hired back. And that's fine. There's many other, opportunities.
You'll survive. You will live through the experience.
You will survive.
Even if you actually fall down.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. I love that. I love the fall down story. My go-to whenever a joke falls flat is some variation of, that was supposed to be a joke, in case you didn't get it. Okay. And people always laugh at the joke about the bad joke. Right. So, and all people remember is they laughed. They don't remember that, like, your joke was awful. They just know they laughed.
Right. Makes you likable. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're totally right. Yeah. The flaws are what make you likable.
Exactly.
Nobody likes a perfect person.
Well, who's perfect? I mean, when people talk about perfection, I mean, nothing is perfect. Nature itself is not perfect and was created by God. I mean, if you look at the leaves on a tree, I always give that analogy because the tree, all the leaves are not the same size or the same shape or anything, and they belong to the same tree. So Mother Nature was not perfect. So you're not perfect. Don't worry about it. There is no perfect.
Yep. Yeah. People can't stand perfect. You see someone who's perfect, you want to be like, what's wrong with them? Let me go Google. Let me go on TMZ. Is there something in their past? Did they cheat on their girlfriend? You know, I'll find something about Mr. Perfect over there.
Yeah,
Whereas when
don't
you have
waste your
flaws,
time.
yeah, you have flaws. No one's searching on Google to try to find the skeletons in my closet because
Exactly.
I'm not claiming I'm perfect. I know I'm not. I'm pretty out there with not being perfect.
You're
So
right.
so you never have to worry about that.
Absolutely.
So this has been a lot of value. Not a perfect interview because nothing's perfect, but
Okay, very funny.
a lot of value in this interview. See, look, I can land those chips. And so yeah, it's been really good stuff. I've learned a lot. Hopefully the audience has learned a lot and nobody fell over. So I think we did pretty well.
Yep.
So if people want to connect with you further, what is the best way for them to do that?
The best way to do that is to go to text the word impact 200 all in one word. So impact 200 and text it to 55312 55312, and or they can just directly get in touch with me through text 917-515-6803. The best way is 917-515-6803. And they can get on my calendar. I think I have the link for you to just get on my calendar and have a chat with me to see where they're at in their business and if there's anything I can help with.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. This has been great. And if you're listening, you should definitely talk to Orly because she knows lots of stuff and she does lots of stuff. And you'll probably learn another thing she does when you talk to her. Because she does things in speaking and health and wellness, and I think you did real estate for a while. And
I was in property management for 25 years,
there you
but
go.
but that's my ex-life. It's not my life now.
Yeah, don't talk to her about real estate. She doesn't want to. Probably my wife
know.
who's in property management and working on getting out of it, and she doesn't want to talk about it. So
Exactly.
same idea. Well, thank you so much. This has been
Thank
such a
you,
great talk.
Michael. It was a pleasure. Thank you.